Hey, in today's video, we're gonna be talking about 3 things that you can do to keep your feet from freezing when you're out backpacking and camping. On our last trip, I completely blew it. I didn't do the things that I knew I should, and so you're gonna wanna know these 3 things so that you don't do the same and you keep your feet toasty warm when you head out into nature. Now, if you're new to the channel, we're Outdoor Vitals. My name is Tayson Whitaker. I'm the founder here, and this channel is all about getting you out on the trail more comfortably and more confidently so you can live ultra light. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you hit subscribe if you're interested in this kind of content, and let's dive right in. All right, so a little bit of background. On this trip, we were actually doing some cross-country skiing into an area where we were spending the night. This is in January. It's cold out. There's snow, obviously. And this is also when you want to make sure you have your layers dialed. Now, typically, I take gaiters in this scenario to make sure that I keep my boots dry, my socks dry. However, when I was using these different boots for these cross-country skis, my gaiters didn't fit that great, and I ended up leaving them home. That was mistake number 1. But if you're interested in making sure you don't make mistakes like these, click up here and go watch the video that we have on layering for winter. Anyways, now that you've got the backstory, let's dive right in. When I got to camp, my feet were soaking wet. Now, because my feet were wet, that meant they were also cold. And I want to talk to you about something that is a big misconception out there, which is by getting in your sleeping bag, your feet are gonna warm up. Your sleeping bag is not an electric blanket. So I brought a little demonstration for you. This is a down booty, but pretend that this is just a sleeping bag or an insulation piece. But when I put my hand in here, it's absolutely freezing. Why? Because when I put my hand in here, I've got this one wonderful pineapple ice pack. Now, you're probably asking, why the heck am I doing this? Well, I wanted to prove a point. If you take something cold and you put it in something like this, which is an insulator, it simply is going to insulate. It will also insulate cold to stay inside. Just like if you were to put something that was hot inside here, it's going to help it stay hot. Now, if you were to take something like this and pretend it is your foot, and you put it in something that's going to insulate like this, your foot is going to stay insulated but cold. Yes, you're gonna be running blood flow and a few things like that, but this actually isn't going to warm up your foot. What's gonna warm up your foot is your blood flow, and that's the only thing. So don't buy into the misconception that your sleeping bag is an electric blanket. It's not, it's an insulator, and that's going to either keep you warm or cold, depending on whatever you put inside of it. So pro tip number 1, make sure when you go to bed, your feet are warm. Do a little bit of exercising, whatever it takes to warm yourself up, get a little hot, not sweaty, but a little bit warm, and then get into your sleeping bag. Yes, you can get in your sleeping bag and do some crunches, and those things work as well, but preferably for me, I like to get in the bag more on the warm side because sitting on my pad and doing exercises and stuff isn't always my favorite. So that's my preference. All right, so let's jump into tip number 2, which is always have dry socks. I made a huge mistake, a mistake that just blew me away because when I got back to my truck the next morning, I saw my dry socks. They were sitting in the seat of my truck. I left them right there, and for some reason, I pulled them out last second thinking, I don't need an extra pair of socks this trip. I absolutely did. My socks got wet, and because of that, I was cold. I did not sleep in those wet socks, which is another tip I'll get to here. But make sure you always pack an extra pair of socks and make sure they're always dry to go to bed. They'll make a massive, massive difference. Even slightly moist socks can take a while to dry out when you're sleeping, and that is also going to suck that heat right out of your feet. So make sure you have dry socks. Now, pro tip here, I did not sleep in those wet socks. They were soaking wet, like I could wring them out. So instead of sleeping in those socks, what I did instead is I let them free float inside of my bag. Now, if you've got a bag that has hyper dry down like ours do, or Loft Tech hybrid or insulations like that, they're gonna perform really, really well with moisture. So let those socks float around your bag, and by morning, they should be dry, or if not, mostly dry. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't want them on my feet to suck that moisture or that heat out of my feet, but instead I let them float around my bag, and in the morning, they were dry. Now, perhaps the easiest, simplest, cheapest tip of all lies right here. Everyone already carries water on the trail, right? You're gonna have water, and it's very, very simple trick, and it's probably something you've done before or heard of done before, but if you haven't tried it, I promise you it is worth trying. Typically, when I'm going out in these cold seasons, I take a bottle of water just like this, and I get the water inside hot. I'll dump the water out, I'll heat it up, I'll pour it back in. Be very careful when you do this. You don't want to melt your bottle or do anything unsafe. But I heat up the water inside of this water bottle, and it makes a massive difference. My experience is that when I do this, this water bottle will stay warm till about 5 or 6 a.m. That's a huge deal. That means I have nice toasty feet because I take this, I put it down by my feet, and I let it heat my feet all night long. Not only are my feet warm, they're dang near sweaty when I do something like this, and it costs you nothing. I guess it could cost you a little bit of fuel, but heck, you already are probably packing that. So heat up water, put it in a water bottle, and take it. Now make sure that you get this on tight. I remember a story from Syntax77. Shout out to his channel, he's a great dude. But he told me once about an experience where his friend did not get the threads tight on a Nalgene bottle. It dumped water all over his bag and created a very cold situation for him. So make sure that your threads are super tight, that you trust your bottle, and then put hot water in here and put it down by your feet, and that is going to make a huge difference to keeping your feet warm on the trail, and it costs you nothing. All right, so those are the 3 tips that I have for you today, but some of you are probably asking or thinking, what the heck was he showing with those down looking socks? Well, these aren't entirely down socks, but they are something we're working on. So if you're interested in something like this, which I very much am, because I've always kind of slept with colder feet, and when I started to use these, I went to bed every night with this confidence, this very confidence-inspiring thought of, my feet will be warm tonight. Even if my shoulder got cold or my hip got cold or something, my feet will be warm, and I love that. So if you're interested in something like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're also on our membership because you'll get first rights to these, but look for these closer to the summertime. The other thing is, on this trip, I was using our new tarps. These just hit the website, so if you're interested in a super light tarp, this is an 11+ foot tarp, 6 foot wide hex tarp. It's gonna come with the stakes. It's a great tarp. You can see how small this thing is. This is actually what I used for that winter trip. So if you're interested in a super versatile tarp, go check it out on the website right now. Thanks for joining us, guys. We really appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.